Retro Mondays.
Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome back to another Retro Monday, where the goal of this show is to turn your Monday into a fun day. Today's classic game is in honor of Memorial Day and our troops, fighting to secure our freedoms and liberties many of us take for granted. So please join me in saluting our armed forces and their families today with this classic game about a bunch of Rambo wannabes taking the fight to the bad guys. Metal Slug released in 1996 for the Neo Geo MVS arcade cabinet and the AVS home console. It was developed by the Nazca Corporation and published by SNK. Well before the developer created this franchise, they did a few games for the company called IRIM. The first game was 1992's Gun Force for the Super Nintendo, and as you can see, the similarities to Europe's Contra game is uncanny. In 1993, the game In the Hunt, which was a submarine arcade game, and of course later Gun Force 2 set the tone and style for the Metal Slug series, which was SNK's brand new running and gunning game with up to 2 players, beautiful hand-drawn visuals, and an amazing sense of humor. Our story begins with General Morden's rebel forces attacking every major city in the world and defeating the regular army. A small ragtag group of soldiers known as the PF Squad take the fight to Morden's forces in hopes for reclaiming the converted Metal Slug tanks and stopping his campaign in its tracks. Players take on the role of First Lieutenant Marco or Second Lieutenant Tarma through 7 intense heart-pounding levels, where the goal of each level is to shoot a constant stream of enemies to reach the level's end. Once at the climax of the level, more than likely you will face a boss of immense size. How the gameplay works is you fight a lot of enemies and rescue prisoners of war. Now the rescued POWs drop useful bonus items to increase points and firepower. These added weapons are the heavy machine gun, flamethrower, shotgun, and missiles. Along with your standard firearm, each character has a knife for close combat and grenades to throw too, which can be refilled by picking up dropped ammo boxes. Once in a while, you will come across the Metal Slug, which is the vehicle portion of the game. It has 2 types of firearms, a Gatling gun and a cannon. Even though this game is really great, I do have some things I just don't like about it. Let's begin with losing all your saved POWs after dying once. This is always my biggest grievance with this series. I think it would have been better to have them up until your very last life. That way it's less depressing that you got a low score after beating that level. Another thing I don't like is the screams of the enemy deaths can get really irritating. I could understand if it was the Wilhelm scream, but the same every single time can get really annoying. Likewise, the lack of levels and only 4 continues can make this game pretty frustrating. However, if you're playing this off the Wii Anthology Collection or the arcade game off the Virtual Console, then continues are of course endless. This represents the old quarter popping of old. A personal complaint for me is the bosses have no life bars. This has always bothered me because I don't know how long till the boss dies, unless you're fighting that machine gun enemy who turns red, and some of the machines show sign of damage while you're destroying them. Lastly, I may be alone in this, but I wasn't a big fan of the Slug itself. With the Wii collection, sometimes I would accidentally eject from the tank and never really get to use the tank. That and aiming is always kind of clunky. Plus, for a tank, this thing can't take a lot of punishment either, and that's pretty sad. Alrighty, so with my minor gripes aside, time to move on to the good stuff for this game. While I already expressed my issues with the screams, the overall sound effects were really well done. From the sounds of the different gunfire, explosions, and environmental noises. However, the music is really what enhances the experience for the gamer. The tunes have such a heroic vibe to it and just really pulls the player into this world, which is a very good thing. Without the score, this game wouldn't be as awesome. I mean, just listen to this. The score for this game was handled by SNK's composer Takeuchi Hayamoto, I think, more commonly referred to as Haya, and he was responsible for most of the series' music, and he did a great job. As far as the graphics go, you just can't beat the hand-drawn detail. It really made this game stand out amongst its competition. Plus the humor gave it that extra charm, and the characters were just hilarious. What's even better is Metal Slug actually featured some destructible environments, which made the gameplay a lot more fun, and this alone showed SNK was ahead of its time. From collapsing platforms, blowing up the docks, buildings, or whatever else was unlucky to get in your way. Besides that, this game does take steps towards realism too, which I liked, like having enemies ripped in half by bigger guns, blowing them to tiny bits, and of course having them melt from the fire. All this was done tastefully, mind you, and not in a way that was repulsive. Out of all the astounding things this game had to offer, what made it the cream of the crop for its genre was the gameplay, hands down. Not only was this game very easy to pick up and play and just really intuitive, but it also had a counter system when enemies got too close to you, which was of course your dude's knife. I can't tell you how happy I was about this, because getting owned by punks in other games that got too close to you usually meant certain death. Not in this game. Now if one got too close to you, you could gut them like a cod and live to tell the tale. Well, until dying from a hail of bullets, anyway. Getting the different power-ups was pretty cool too, and out of all the weapon upgrades, I liked the machine gun and the flamethrower the most, but mainly the flamethrower because I could burninate the bad guys. And that was awesome. Still, the most fun I ever had playing this game is with another person, co-op. Until you've played this game with a friend or your wife, in my case, then you truly haven't experienced the joys that this game can bring. So, does this game have any lasting appeal? You bet it does. This game definitely redefined a genre, not to mention created a franchise that lasted a decade. Over the years, the series has added new additions such as 2 female characters in Metal Slug 2, more weapons and vehicles, additional paths to take in Metal Slug 3, bizarre locations and enemies, and just so much more. Okay, so you're probably thinking to yourself, what is the best way to own this collection? Well, I would have to say the Anthology Collection for the Nintendo Wii. It contains Metal Slug 1 through 6 and retails pretty cheap these days. Trust me, this is one game that you don't want to go without. Unless, of course, you hate fun, then that's your own choice. Well, thus wraps up another Retro Monday. I hope that you all enjoy Memorial Day and remember what it stands for. Join me next time as we begin a look at my favorite X-Men games from my childhood. First up is X-Men Mutant Apocalypse for the Super Nintendo, a classic game that made Psylocke look like a dude and, of course, showed why Capcom is known for its intense difficulty. And that's it! Just a reminder that my band has an album on iTunes. If you liked what you saw, then please subscribe because it's free for you and cool for me. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch another Retro Monday. And until we meet again, gamers, God bless and happy gaming.